Guru advice is so attractive because they have proof, they have the views, the money, the lifestyle, the authority, and the human brain makes a simple mistake because we assume that the visible success validates the advice being given. But success doesn't validate the process, it validates the outcome. What you're hearing is how they maintain their lifestyle, what they have already, not how they build the momentum. And that distinction, albeit small, matters more than anything else, I'd say, early on in your self improvement and goal achieving journey. Because most internet advice doesn't have to be false, it's often just delivered from the wrong point in the timeline. What were they moving like when they didn't have an audience, when they didn't have leverage, when they didn't have a safety net? Are they describing a refined lifestyle with routines and morning routines and diets that work for them now? Or was that what they were doing back then as well? Because you need to be wary of, is the advice being given for someone that already has momentum and is protecting it? Or is it given for someone who's trying to create the momentum and doesn't have it yet? Because following those trains early on, it makes you behave like someone who has already arrived. And that can not help you achieve your goals. It can help you stay stuck. It's a mistake that I made with the self improvement content as well, because I saw the flashy cars, I saw the money, I saw the lifestyles. Like, that guy knows what he's doing. And he does. But currently, he knows what he's doing to maintain this lifestyle. We forget so quickly. We get used to what we have. I mean, you know it. You buy a new product, you're so happy with it initially, and then after a couple of weeks, like it's normal again, and you adjust it to the life that you have with this current product or thing in your life. It's the same with success. At some point, you just forget what it took to get there. Your current life is what you're living day in and day out, and you're breathing that. So you have more authority to speak on that than anything else. And that's the uncomfortable truth. People who already have the success and have won, they're no longer solving the problems that you are solving because they're optimizing for what they have already. You're emerging, you're rising from the ashes. They're managing the complexity of their lives, and you just need brutal simplicity. You don't need complex morning routines, complex advice, actions, habits. What you need is exposure. You don't need to protect your reputation because you're still building it. And if you take advice from someone who's 10 steps ahead, you're inheriting the constraints that you don't even have yet. And that creates friction that's going to stop you from getting to where you need to be because you need to be as frictionless as possible. Your priorities need to be in order. Not because you're incapable, but because you know, if you don't, you're trying to solve the wrong problem. And and I'd say that's the reframe that most people miss. The most useful person to learn from isn't the one that's already at the finish line. It's the person that's 1 or 2 steps ahead of you because he recently fixed the problems that you are going through right now. The guy's still in the mess, still making the trade offs, still in the trenches, still sacrificing, still trying to live the reality that you're trying to enter. And they remember what they had to sacrifice, they remember what they had to do, they remember what had to be ignored, they remember what had to be focused on. And more importantly, they aren't insulated from consequence yet because they're living it. And that makes their signal clearer because they know what the stakes are currently, your stakes. And I think it's key to find that because trying to do it alone and isolating yourself isn't gonna help you get forward in the best way possible either. Take it from someone who tried to do it alone as well. Because the internet device gets convoluted. You're not really finding your place, or like, oh, let's do it alone. But without proximity, in the same season as other people around you, you lose calibration because you don't know which struggles for you are normal to have or aren't, where you're wasting effort or not, and what's necessary in balance or not, because you have to learn it all on your own. But people around you, they have made mistakes that you can learn from if they're in the same seasons. People around you maybe can learn from you because you've made other mistakes that they now don't have to make again. And by this knowledge transfer from like minded people in the same seasons or in proximity of the same seasons, whether you're a bit before or after, is so powerful to have. And if you don't have this, you default back to this polished advice with the greatest edits and a lot of money being poured into the content. So it hits your dopamine all the time. They know exactly what they're doing. And it gives you this false sense of certainty when you listen to them because it shows they have authority in what they're speaking of. And the numbers show it as well. But it's a vicious loop that keeps opening and closing and keeps you stuck in that cycle of listening to people who aren't really going to give you the advice that you need to get to where they are. Because you're in the trenches and momentum doesn't come from motivation that they give you. It comes from a shared reality. People being around people who are still building and not just posturing. Being around people who are sacrificing and not optimizing the diet, the lifestyle, the routines, the perfect morning routine. I mean, look it up on YouTube. You've got 10 million views if you watch those videos. But it's often people are already in a certain place that you aren't. So is that routine really best for you? You need to be around people who are paying the same costs. So those costs will stop feeling like failure, like you're doing something wrong. Will stop feeling like you have to doubt yourself every step of the way. And then it starts feeling like a path because you're sharing it. And that path is what's going to keep most people moving when other self-improvement content would have maybe caused them to slow down, to create friction where it's unnecessary. So if you want to know that the advice you're given is advice worth listening to, use this filter. Is this person living the life I'm trying to build or I'm building currently? Right now, is he doing that in this moment? Not eventually, but right now. If you look at a channel, you can get the sense that when they're talking to a camera, saying they're doing X thing, but you can just tell that this person really, when the camera turns off, isn't going to do that at all, right? They don't have anything to back it up. And it's important that when you have this feeling, you turn off. Or when you look at a billionaire, that you understand, like, well, it's interesting what he's saying, but what he's doing currently isn't going to make me a billionaire. No, I need to know what he was doing when he was in the trenches, when he was poor, when he had no one looking at him. Ask yourself that question, scrutinize heavily. When I look at certain self-improvement channels and I look at the guy talking to me in the camera, telling me to work out or lift or something and do something right, and I look at him like, I don't feel like you yourself are even disciplined in this regard. So why should I be listening to you? When the camera turns off, I feel like you're not going to go be disciplined about your diet and lifestyle and gym life. So should I be taking advice from you? So ask yourself, are they in the same season? Or are they speaking from a finished chapter? Maybe they achieved the thing and they no longer feel like doing it anyway. Are they talking about the trade-offs or are they only talking about outcomes? And if the answer to the question I told you is no, advice may still be useful, but just not yet. Maybe you're just too early. It doesn't mean that there are bad people saying bad things. It just means that right now it isn't applicable to you. And you shouldn't waste your time when you're still building. The information diet that you're on is so important. So my point isn't that self-improvement advice is dangerous because it's wrong. My point is that it's dangerous if you follow advice from people that aren't in the season that you are in. Because if you're taking advice built for maintenance while you're still in your phase of emerging and rising from the ashes, you're on the come up, then you shouldn't take advice on building the perfect systems. Because you're still gonna have to sacrifice to get to where you want to be. You're not gonna have the perfectly healthy lifestyle, healthy diet, healthy decisions, perfect routines. Because getting out of tough and sticky situations means sometimes that you have to leave some of those things by the wayside. And of course, you have to do it in a manageable fashion, but there's gonna be times where it isn't manageable. And you're just gonna have to go full steam ahead. No other thought. Look for alignment. Look for proximity. Look for people living the reality that you are stepping into. And that's where clarity comes from. And that's the exact reason I'm making this video. Because I've been listening to well achieved and successful people, and their advice was awesome. Just wasn't applicable to the situation that I am in currently. So it created friction. I've made the mistakes. Instead of doing that, I'm taking matters into my own hands. I opened a free school community. The link will be in the description. You don't have to pay anything. Just join. Let's build a community, learn from each other. That's the purpose with this channel as well. I'm not asking you to buy anything. Don't click nothing, don't smash nothing if you don't want to. But if you just want to be surrounded by like-minded people, give this video a subscribe. Show me that you like it, and I'll do more of it. Mind you that the advice that you need doesn't always come from the loudest voice. It comes from shared ground. And if you're paying the cost and it feels lonely, that doesn't mean that you're doing it wrong. It just means you are early. And that's exactly where momentum is built. If you surround yourself with the right advice and people in the same seasons that you are in. See you in the next one.